Muted.
The first thing we're going to look at, I just wanted to, again, welcome everybody. And again, my name is Tim. I'm the Manager of Support Services here at eDoc Innovations. Tara was supposed to be with us this afternoon. Unfortunately, her husband has had some major medical issues, and so our hopes and prayers are with her as they go through that today. So we'll go ahead and get started on the webinar. So a few of the items that we're going to be covering today, eUpdate functionality, what it does today, the eUpdate installation for those of you that have seen some of the announcements that have come out and have seen some of the emails and had communications with our staff on installation procedures and what that looks like. We'll be covering future uses, so where we see eUpdate going in the next few releases as we build and develop this tool. And then, as I had mentioned earlier, we'll be opening this up for question and answers at the end of the webinar. So the first thing that we're going to talk about, this is actually what the eUpdate website looks like. So we've mentioned that a few different times in our phone calls and in our announcements, that it is checking in, your workstations are checking into our secure eUpdate servers. And when they come through, these are some of the things that we're able to see. So we're able to see workstations listed by credit union. So if we look here, this is actually using our internal machines that are checking in on eUpdate. So this is the control ID, which is control ID read. So that would be specific to each institution. So that's what you've been using as you've been installing eUpdate. You've been using your unique eUpdate ID or control ID. So we can actually see a list of workstations that are running eDoc, and it also shows the check-in times and the times that it's communicating with the eUpdate server. So this can be controlled on the credit union side, how often they check in and look for updates. So if we look here, we can see these are all the workstations that are internally installed at eDoc, and that's the last check-in as well as the next check-in. We also have statuses, so we can see errors in certain things if the workstations are having issues. So also on the Updates tab, we can see individual specific workstation settings. So this is the workstation for Dell XPSVT.PC. This is my personal machine. And so what it does is it will check in and it tells me the product installed as well as the version that is installed. So this is useful for when you will start calling into us and with issues on specific workstations, we can see what versions of the applications are installed and being utilized on that workstation. We are also able to see workstations listed by product. So again, we can specify we want to see all workstations in the credit union that have ProDoc installed. And so in our case here internally, these are all the machines on the CSR team and some of the other staff here running ProDoc, and here are the versions. So again, it allows us to see either by workstation what versions are being used, or by the actual application. So who is using ProDoc, who is using Doc, and what versions are being used there. So these tools allow us to track and monitor the statuses of the different workstations. So the next tab that we're going to move on to is the Groups tab. So this allows you to specify what workstations are part of which groups. And this will come in handy when we start pushing out or start coordinating settings updates, which one of the biggest ones that we'll be doing this spring is going to be license codes. So we would specify that the license code group is the group that would include all of the workstations at the credit union, and these are the settings that it's going to pull down. So for my example here, we have the CSR group, and so if we have specific settings that are pertinent to them, then I can make those settings go down to that group. So in a credit union setting, it would be you could have MSR group, you could have teller group, you could have lending group, you could have admin group, depending. So it really allows you to manage that and to specify those groups on who is getting what settings across the groups. Also within the settings tab, again, we're working off of my workstation. We can actually verify and see the settings, the configuration settings by specific product. So in this case, we're looking at my workstation here. My product is Prodoc, and then the file that it is reading right now is the INI file. So I can see if the INI file is complete, if there's been settings that are missing, and it allows us in the troubleshooting process to see, if this comes in blank or if this comes in partial, then we know that there may be something that needs to be interacted with on the INI file to modify the settings, or that someone had changed settings, and that's why Prodoc does not function completely on the workstation. So the next tab that we're actually looking at is the Actions tab. So this is what makes the request for the workstation to complete an activity. And the way that these communications actually happen is the workstation makes the request to the eUpdate server to see if there's anything that needs to change. So we do not actively push down any sort of files or settings changes. What we do is we put a requested change, and then the next time the workstation checks in, it will perform that action. So looking at this tab right here, I can specify an action for a group. So I've got a CSR group, and I want the product to be eUpdate, and I want it to report settings. So this is a command that I can make for every single person in that group that I want them to report their latest eUpdate RDI INI settings. And then if we look at the next action, for my machine, I'm specifying here, this is what it looks like in long form, the Prodoc RDI INI under the user section, the Prodoc code is going to be this. So that's a sample command of what we would be setting up for all of the workstations come next spring, so license codes are automated. And I know that we've had, it becomes a nuisance when you're seeing lots of those errors and in the spring and in January when you're waiting for license codes to be deployed to your institution. And we know that that's a pain point, and that's why we have, one of the reasons why we've developed this to be used in a functionality and capacity to streamline that and to simplify the process. So these actions can be completed on either a group level or per a specific workstation. And that's really where we see it come into its own in the support and troubleshooting process, is if someone calls in and says, my workstation, there's a setting or my packages isn't turned on, or if there's something missing, we can actually go into the eUpdate application, we can turn on packages, and then the next time that workstation checks in, packages will be enabled and working for that machine. And now, as far as the way that would work, it would still be an exit process within Prodoc for that change to pull down. So for example, if someone does enable packages, the setting would push down, would go down to the workstation, but they would have to exit and relaunch Prodoc for that change to take place. So that's the process for how eUpdate is going to be used for license codes this spring. So for those of you that have not yet installed the eUpdate application, this is where we would go through on a high level what it takes to actually do the install. And this is all part of the announcement that was sent out a few times the last month and a half, last 2 months, on the actual installation of the eUpdate solution. And looking at this, basically you would either already have the installer located in your EDI software on your server, or you would download the installer from our website. And we have had people that have had issues with the download and have been reaching out to us directly through normal support means, and we can give them the installer. Once you have the installer in place, you would then configure the RDI INI, the box that is surrounded in orange would be the two settings that you would need to have in your INI file before you go through the install process. So after that has been downloaded, you would click on the DocLogic eUpdate.exe. This must be ran as an admin to install properly, so it will begin checking in. At that point, you would then click Next. This is where the eUpdate ID again comes into play. So if this comes in blank, it will not allow you to install eUpdate properly. So at this point, you could either manually type in the data here, or you can edit the RDI INI and rerun the install. Push Next from here and Finish, and it will give you a prompt that the application has completed the install. After that, to verify that it is running and that you can see everything checking into the eUpdate server, you would actually go to a service window and look for the DocLogic eUpdate service. And if it has not started or is not running, then you would click Start to kick that application off so it begins to run. The next piece after the install, or for verification, it actually installs folders in the CRDI work directory that are in with all of the other DocLogic application files, and it's actually called CRDI work upgrades. And within that path, eUpdate, as soon as it starts to run, it will begin generating logs. So if your log looks like the one pictured in this slide here, then it is checking in and it is communicating the settings properly and has the right configuration to hit the eUpdate website. If it does not look like this, or if you're getting errors or something that doesn't look complete, please contact us and we can work with you on seeing what is missing or what is not being complete within that workstation itself. So one of the great things that we're able to offer right now, and one of the things that we've seen a lot of use out of the eUpdate, is we have a reporting function that allows us to provide feedback to the credit union for specific reports on what they are looking for. So in this example here, this is again for our internal control ID. This is a report I generated from the eUpdate server that tells me the workstations that are checking in, the last time it checked in, and the product version. So these reports are something that we will make available to the credit union depending on what they want to see. So they could see versions of doc, they could see versions of product, they could just get a total or a tally on what workstations are currently running eUpdate. I know as we've worked with Karen and the CheckLogic and item processing team, that they will be using this as well to monitor what versions of CheckLogic are out and be able to run reports on that as well. So after this meeting, we will actually be sending out a form to all of the attendees for the option on which reports they would like to see for their institution. We'll be then sending those out on a periodic basis. Right now it's looking like a monthly basis where that task will be set up to generate a report, and it can actually email the report directly to you or to whoever on staff you would want to have a copy of the report for the credit union. So we see a lot of versatility in what we're able to provide as far as useful information to the credit union on what their system looks like. So it'll give you real-time versions, it'll give you the applications that are currently installed on specific workstations, and this can be written to give you the specific reports that you are looking for. And so those will come to you in a similar format, and depending on what you request or what kind of reports you are looking for. So the big question is, and we've had a lot of internal discussion on eUpdate and the solution and how it actually works, what it actually does, more importantly, where we see it going in the future. And one of the things that we've come across is, as this is something that is in the growth phase, the first thing that we see this doing is license code deployment. So that will be the main use, and that will be the workhorse for eUpdate. As we had covered earlier in the webinar, we can also see version check-ins, any file recognition, as well as generate reports for your credit union on what your internal picture looks like. And more importantly, as we start on this, utilizing this solution and developing it and working with credit unions on making it a truly integrated and useful tool for the credit union, we do see this being used for version deployment, workstation management, as well as giving it to the credit union for management and installation for their local institutions. So what this will allow you to do is will allow you to track and monitor workstations that are checking in, monitor settings that are being changed, and more importantly, manage the version deployment rollout cycle. So an example of that would be once all of the workstations have been installed with eUpdate, then we could say, okay, I have a specific group that I want to send the newest version of Prodoc to. You could make a command for that group. They would then see that there's something waiting for them and pull down the newest version. And then if you need to roll back, or if you want to then push it out to additional groups, that would all be controlled through the eUpdate portal. And we want to give that power to the credit unions, and that's something that we want to see happening in the future. As of right now, as I had mentioned, we are specifically using this for license code deployment and for configuration files and settings. So at that point, as I mentioned, this was a fairly quick webinar. We do have a couple existing questions, so I will work on answering those. I've also invited Mark Fierro. He's in on this call, and he can explain further if there's anything I need to illuminate a little bit further. So I'm going to unmute him right now and see, first of all, if there's any feedback or any items that I missed. So bear with me just one moment.
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for. Yes, I am. Can you hear me fine?
Yep.
Great. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for taking your time today to go through this brief webinar regarding our eUpdate solution. We're very pleased with the solution, where we're at in the development cycle of this, and believe that going forward, this is going to provide a great tool for credit unions to manage their deployment of the eDoc solutions, as well as for the eDoc support team to be of greater assistance to our client base, understanding some of the challenges that you may face, and if there's particular issues with specific workstations, ferreting those problems out, hopefully in a much quicker fashion. Tim also alluded to the license code updates, which from my standpoint, it has been for years for eDoc Innovations, and I'm sure for many clients, a little bit of a painful process every year. and we are really excited to be utilizing this tool as our primary method for getting license codes out to clients this year. So with that, Tim, if you're ready to start going through some questions, we can start addressing them.
Sure. Yep, so the first question is, will this be pushed out to companies that host their own server so we can utilize this to push out different settings and actions? This was actually at the beginning of the webinar, so I believe that we'd answer that question, that yes, it will. That is something that is planned to happen in the future. The next question, is this webinar being recorded and will be available for others to view? That's a great question. Yes, it is being recorded. We will be making a copy of this available within the next few days, and we'll be sending out the link for that to all of the attendees here today. Next question, will all eUpdates initiated by eDoc require approval by CU staff before they are deployed by eUpdate? I'll go ahead and defer to you on that one, Mark, a little bit on.
Sure. And so when we're actually starting to apply actual workstation software type updates, yes, credit unions will be involved in that process intimately. We would like to see this. We envision sort of a phased approach as new versions of our applications become available, where credit unions are saying, okay, we want to install it on this group of workstations who are going to be our beta testers, making sure that there's no problems with the update and that everything functions in the way you're expecting it to. Once you've gone through that process, then being able to approve for release to all the other workstations the updated application.
Okay, perfect. Thank you, Mark. Yeah, and we don't want to create any additional headache on either of the staff, our internal staff or your internal staff. So it will all be communicated and open on what is going to be happening and when. So the next question, what ports / protocols will eUpdate use? It uses secure encryption through the HTTPS ports, protocols. And what port is that again, Mark?
It's port 443.
Okay. And the next question, will eUpdate create any rules in Windows Firewall?
It does not. eUpdate does not make any changes to your existing firewall configurations. You would have to allow that access across your firewall should you be blocking port 443 traffic from your client workstations.
Okay, thank you. You had mentioned this will be in-house in the future. Will this product replace the upgrade folder or the current upgrade structure for modifying files?
Initially, no. Long-term, yes. We see this as being the solution that is going to allow credit unions to self-manage the rollouts of updates of their versions across their network. One of the challenges with the local upgrade service right now is as Windows keeps tightening down permissions to folders for different user groups, you have to provide those permissions to your end users. When Upgrader runs, when you exit an application or launch an application, it runs as the user who is logged into the workstation. So if they do not have sufficient permission levels to access the files and folders that are required to conduct the update fails. Utilizing this method with the eUpdate solution, this is running as a service on the local workstation under the system account, which has far greater privileges to update information and update executables during that process. So we see that this is going to sort of replace that as credit unions become far more security conscious and locking down user permissions.
Okay, excellent. Thank you. Next question, will CU staff have access to the eUpdate dashboard? Yes, eventually that will be something that they will be in control of when we get to that point. Next question, this is basically for credit unions that house their own eDoc server, and if not, are there any differences for in-house clients that manage their own servers?
Now, this actually applies for both in-house clients and clients who are hosted on eDoc-owned servers. So this tool applies to both groups of clients. So there really is no difference in versioning and for releasing of the application.
Okay, thank you. Why is this hosted on our site versus an in-house? Again, we had mentioned in the beginning of the webinar, this is basically where we're starting from. So the real test and going through and using this is getting everything up and running, getting workstations checking in, and pushing out license codes. Next question, does the person need admin rights to the workstation in order for this to happen? Our users will be restricted to do anything on the workstation. What rights will be needed for eUpdate to function? So for the credentials, it does need to be installed using admin credentials. Users will not have access to modify or change any of those settings. Again, it would do a similar function that if a user gets in and reselects their own printer, if they want to do that, they have the whatever permissions they have to do that would be allowed. But they would not have permissions to modify anything else on anyone else's machine or to make commands to do anything else on anyone else's machine. Next question, when this becomes available to in-house clients, will we do our own group setups, and is there a fee to set these up? No. So you will be in charge of managing your own groups, and no, there would not be a fee to set this up. I envision that we would be doing additional trainings in the future as this solution grows and develops, as well as we've been doing with our other applications, documenting all of the different pieces and providing video trainings as well. Next question, what are the commands to perform a silent install? So there's a few different ways that we've seen that done. Normally on the credit unions that have been doing it, they've been using a batch file. We don't have a specific way of, we don't support the silent installs officially. We do support install of one workstation at a time using the installer. Next question. You mentioned it would do version deployments. Is that for in-house only, or will this be through the secure connection? I'll go ahead and let you answer that one, Mark.
Yeah, that would apply to both in-house and ASP clients for deployment of versions. Again, when we get to that point, which we're not there yet, that is going to be something that's going to be closely coordinated with the credit union for the timing of it and what groups they would be deployed to and when they would be deployed for updating workstations. We don't want to just push out updates and without staff at the credit union knowing that these are coming and being well aware that changes will be happening on a particular date.
And that would be the same for what we're looking to do with the license codes this spring. We would notify the authorized contacts that license codes are ready to be deployed, and then if they have any users that are still getting errors after they have been deployed, then they could begin looking at those individual workstations. So we would see that as, you know, the communication that would happen is that we would send out a notice that license codes are ready, and then if machines cannot pull them down, then we'd look at those specific machines at that point. So next question. Is there alerting or reporting available to the CU when a change is made by eDoc staff to an INI file? So again, that would be when we do make a change, the first thing that we're going to be doing would be license codes, and that would be communicated. If there is an additional change that needs to be made, that would be something in a typical support call. You would see someone calling in. We would check what workstation they're working on, and then if we knew what setting needed to be changed, we would be working with you at that point anyways, as you're the authorized service contact, and we would at that point ask for approval to make a change to the workstation, or if it's something that can be done manually, that could be done as well. So it's more of a troubleshooting tool than actually something that we're going to be making active changes with. Next question. We were originally told this is only needed to be loaded on PCs that use CheckLogic, but we use Prodoc for receipts. Do we need to download eUpdate to all PCs? eUpdate would need to be ran and downloaded and installed on any application using eDoc applications, so Prodoc, Doc, statements, and reports. Now that there could be a change there, or there would be a difference there if you are in a CU SPI or environment using Prodoc for receipts and forms. So that would actually depend on what environment you're in.
Right, so to clarify that, if you are utilizing CU SPI for receipt and form processing, eUpdate does not need to be installed on your Prodoc workstations. Anyone who's using CheckLogic, though, it does need to be installed on those CheckLogic workstations. Clients who are working through the CU SPI solution are working under an agreement through CU Answers, and they provide the support and manage all the updates of applications and licenses completely for that environment.
Okay, so at this point there's another question on, is there a way, so with the changes that are being made, or if there's a change that's made, is there any way for the CU to audit those changes? Again, right now the only thing that we're going to be doing is license codes, and that will be notification through email when they're ready.
Right, and that's a question that's come up before from other clients directly, and we're looking at options that we can do to provide that level of reporting capability back to the credit union. So whenever an eDoc staff or in the future a credit union staff requests a change, that change can be publicized or published back to the credit union so that they are aware that this particular change did occur.
Okay, thank you, Mark. Next question, will it cause any problems if an install is pushed out twice to a workstation after testing and during deployment? No, I don't see that it would be any issue there. What we've been having credit unions do is once they've installed eUpdate on all the workstations, they've been reaching out to me and saying, generate a report for me so I can see what workstations are checking in. So after I generate a report and email that back to them, they can then check against what they have internally for a list of workstations, and if there's any discrepancies, then we work on those individual machines. So it looks like I'm not seeing anything else as far as questions. Again, thank you all for attending this afternoon. If there are any additional questions, I am available, and again, I'll be mailing out I'll be sending an email out on covering what we covered in this webinar, as well as a link back to the original video for access to anyone on your staff that wasn't able to attend, and so you have a record of it as well. Thank you all for your time this afternoon. If you do think of anything else, please reach out to us, and we're available to run through any scenarios that you run into. Talk to you guys soon, and have a great day.
Thank you, everyone.
Yep, thank you, Mark.
Yep, thank you. Muted.